Brian Thompson asked me to make a chasing and repoussé piece to commemorate the fact that it's 40 years since the first conference that's referred to as Quad State Conference, and to kind of focus on the early years and Emmert's influence on it all. And so it took me a couple of months really to figure out how the heck to tell that story. But I wanted to come up with it's an ongoing thing, so I wanted to come up with a design that kind of circled back on itself, like in a continuing fashion. And so I came up with the idea of representing Emmert's influence as the forge engine. Really, he's really the engine behind it all. And so I have him as the forge blower, and he's forcing air up under the fire, and then everything else kind of circles back around. But I kind of tried to think of all the different things, especially in those earlier years. It's not limited strictly to that, but all of the different things that the demonstrators showed and taught in that time. And like when you follow that kind of swirl of fire up around counterclockwise, the first one on the right is a Francis Whitaker demo, or represents a Francis Whitaker demo, where he demonstrated like a drop tong weld, where he's welding two branches of a scroll together and basically sticking one and dropping the tongs and then finishing the weld. And then there are two rosettes above that. The first one references a Tom Joyce demo that I actually helped him do, the rosette. And then above that, just a little bit, is one from George Katai, where he came and demonstrated. George Katai being an old Czechoslovakian smith that Bruce Washington got to come. And he had worked for a number of years at the Rose Iron Works in Cleveland. And then just straight across from those, there's kind of a looped around element that Tom Bredlow did, where pieces are looped back around and forge welded, and multiple versions of that. And it's a motif that you see quite a bit in the older work in Europe, really. And just immediately above that is a piece that kind of scrolls off to the side or moves off to the side that Bruce Woodward did when he demonstrated. And that wasn't that many years ago, but probably 8 or 10 years ago. And again, some of these elements are kind of stylized just to kind of so that they move, or, they have some artistic freedom in there so that they move with that curvular flow going around. And above that, there's two more elements. One is like a triangular piece, or it's a bar that's been split and opened up into a diamond, I should say, not a triangle, a diamond that Francis Whitaker did. And just to the right of that is a tomahawk that references one that Mark Bokenkamp did. And then right beside that, which is hard to see, you got to look close, is a reference to a hinge that Peter Ross did. And then flowing around to the top of the circle is kind of another repoussé piece that George Katai did. And then the next piece is a bird that George Katai also did. It's not the one that's on the board in the SOFA building. It's another one that I had a picture of. I don't know where the actual piece is, but it was a beautifully forged bird that he did. And then kind of coming inside on the corner is kind of a curved flesh fork, another piece that Peter Ross did when he demonstrated there. Then there is another Whitaker piece, which is another split bar piece that opens up into a circle and then split again so that two of the pieces can curve back in. And then there is a knife, kind of a stylized knife based on one that was in a demo, but it kind of references or I should say, it's based on one in the display, but it kind of references all the different demos that we've had from really good bladesmiths over the years. There's been a lot of that, and then there is a folded leaf shape, which Barry Wheeler had seen it at the 78 conference in SUNY, and he was shown that by Max Siegel, who was an older smith at the time. I don't believe he can still be around. But Barry saw him do that at the SUNY conference in 78 and then brought it back to Quad State in, I believe it would have been later in 78, and then showed a lot of us how to do that folded leaf. It was the first time I had seen it, and I'm sure it's the first time most people had seen it. And there's another little kind of a blown over end scroll that Tom Bredlow did, and then the whole thing kind of comes up then on the tree that Dmitry Giarkaris did. And then it kind of circles back around because it's a continuing, I mean, you know, it's continuing to grow, and it continues, it just continues on, which is referenced then again by the anvil. On my anvil base, it says, "And the sparks are still flying." So that's basically it. You know, just kind of a ongoing thing that's really developed a really great momentum over the years, and I think it's taken on a life of its own, really.
Beautiful. And how long did it take you to make that? Did you work on it at nights or on the side as side project, or?
No, it was really kind of too hard to do as a side project. It really demanded more focus than a side project. And it took longer than I expected. There's a lot of small detail in there. Normally I have bigger detail, you know, detail that's larger than life. But at 40 years to fit in one piece, it ended up being small detail. And I'm sure I worked on it in the shop for 3 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Now some of that is looking at it and you know, and because you're really kind of pulling the shapes out of it, because I mean really it's just a collection of dents is all it really is. I mean, how it ends up looking like something, I'm still amazed. But I'm pretty sure I worked on it for a period of 3 weeks till it was totally finished. So.
Beautiful. Is it in a frame?
Well, I made a frame for it that closes it in, and then Joe Boniface is making a steel frame that goes with it as the other part of the
Nice.
commemorative piece. Yeah.